Welcome to today's transition about Chiron, the wounded healer, traditionally. Chiron moving from Aries into Taurus, last 8 years in Aries and the next 7 or 8 years in Taurus. I am Kulina Casa, Satmom, SATMOM.com. I help people cultivate authentic connection through embodied wisdom and cyclical rhythms so we can expand our capacity for meaningful relationship. I'm here with my soul sister, Eleni Prinsloo. She is our resident astrologer. She's a powerful healer. And we're going to speak with her right now about Chiron. Thank you, Eleni, for being here. So excited to talk with you today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. Welcome. So, as Kalina said, my name is Eleni, and I'm a esoteric and evolutionary astrologer. I'm also an energy healer, breathwork facilitator, and my purpose and sort of passion is to help people come home to themselves and empower themselves by giving them tools and methodologies and techniques to support themselves and get to know themselves and heal themselves ultimately, so that your power is in your own hands. So that's kind of the thread here. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be speaking about Chiron as an archetype, as a construct. What does it represent? Who is he? How does he move and express through us? And then we're going to just start the conversation. We're going to dive into Chiron. I'll give you a little bit of feedback as to who he is, how he sort of just represents through us as an archetype. And then we're going to look at the sign that he's been in for the last 8 years, which is Aries. And then from there, we're going to see what this transition that is happening on the 19th of June is going to usher in for both us individually and collectively when he shifts signs from Aries into Taurus. So let's just quickly look at Chiron. Is a dwarf planet, and he was discovered in 1977. They named him after the wounded healer, right? So Chiron in Greek mythology is a teacher, a mentor, a wisdom keeper, and he was also a profound healer. So the traits associated with him is healing and teaching and mentoring and wisdom and transformation through experience, and also sometimes through suffering or through pain or through loss. So the mythology behind Chiron is that he was shot with a poison arrow, and he tried every way, mean, and possibility to heal his own wound, but he was never able to heal himself. But he was able to heal other people through the wisdom that he gained and gathered from his journey on towards his self-healing. And so this is why he's known as the wounded healer. So the story is that he was essentially unable to transmute his own wound, but in return, he was able to heal and help other people. Now, the reason why this is an archetype, and the reason why this particular archetype expresses through us, is because we all come in with a core wound that we want to work through and heal through and move through and experience growth through. And there is medicine in the wound. So when we think of Chiron as an archetype, right, it is a bridge between where we fracture ourselves, right, where we give our power away, where we disassociate, where we lack belonging. There's a part in us that becomes fragmented or fractured. And the medicine is through understanding and healing and going through the experience to gain and gather the wisdom from it, so that we can then become healed and become whole. So it's about noticing the pain that keeps repeating, the wound that keeps repeating, the story that keeps repeating, the aspect of you that's saying, but this one thing, this thing just doesn't want to seem to heal. And we all have Chiron within our astrology chart, and it expresses through each one of us individually in our own unique way. The gift, however, of Chiron is that there's a lot of teaching and a lot of wisdom and a lot of medicine and a lot of empathy and sympathy that can come through our own experiences. This is why he's also a healer. So it is through our own wounds and tumultuous experiences that we receive wisdom that we can then gift to others. And then we can share our wisdom with others in a way that might support them when they themselves go through similar wounds or experiences that, might feel painful within their own life as well. So let's just quickly dive into Aries. So Chiron first moved into Aries in 2019. So Chiron tends to stay in a sign for about 7 to 8 years. Okay. And it's going to move into Taurus, and then it's going to retrograde back, and then it's going to move back into Taurus with a full kind of forward momentum. So when Chiron was in Aries specifically, let's just quickly talk about Aries for those of you. Aries is a cardinal sign. It means that it is a initiation sign. It is a sign that is ruled by Mars. Mars is known as the warrior of the zodiac. The traits that Aries would have and be emboldened in is courage, initiative, leadership, independence, competitiveness, directness, passion. It's action oriented. It wants to move, get stuff done. It doesn't like to stay stuck. It doesn't like to stay in situations that feel limiting or slow, or like it needs that kind of constant movement in order for it to feel excited and inspired and passionate. So the energy of Aries is, I'm going to go first. I'm going to take that leap. I'm going to be the one that moves and takes action and is direct and courageous and independent and bold and outspoken. The shadow of Aries is impatience and aggression and self-centeredness and anger and impulsivity and a lack of foresight, because they can't stay in one situation for longer than a small or certain period of time. So when you think of the wounded healer moving into that sign and trying to embody that energy, it starts to kind of give us this existential crisis almost of, well, why was I born? What is my purpose? What am I? Who am I? What am I trying to do? What am I trying to create? How am I whole within myself? And so Chiron in Aries has been initiating us through lived experience for the last 8 years and showing us exactly where we have lost our sense of identity, where we have given our power away to other people, external circumstances, where we lacked internal discipline and courage to move forward, where we were afraid to take risks, where we lacked self-trust, where we were unable to define our identity, our true identity. And so what happens is that, we tend to experience people pleasing and dependency and losing ourselves in relationships and fear of standing alone. And all of these different expressions is ultimately what was happening for all of us collectively over the last 8 years, where we've all gone through some kind of a transition, some kind of a a shift in who we are fundamentally as a person, as a being.
I feel
And
that
so,
deeply. It kind of feels like the last 8 years have been kind of like this healing crisis. Like we've been so focused on our own healing, personal healing. And also, like, we have to keep, like, it's just like not the ability to stop and rest. And I think, like, we'll get there, but like, I'm really glad for the Taurus energy because it's going to give our this whole healing crisis a new perspective. But sorry, I'm jumping ahead to there. But
no, but that's a good point. So that's exactly it. So what I really want people to kind of do and feel into in this moment is notice how and what has come up for you within your own being over the last 8 years. Look at how much you have shifted within your identity, your I am presence. You're not the same person that you were 8 years ago. Every single person that I know, that I've met, that I've sort of come into contact with, I've been able to see the evolution of how they have stopped performing for other people. There's a sense of wanting to take back their autonomy, wanting to take back their freedom, wanting to claim their power, to be and do for themselves. That wasn't there 5 years ago. And so this is the gift, right? This is the medicine. This is the gift. It's like we all went through some kind of a deconstruction in order to become more empowered in ourselves and who we are, knowing ourselves now in a much deeper way, but it had to come through the wound. We had to see the fragmented parts in us. We had to see the aspects of us that weren't whole, that weren't healed, where we were giving our power away, where we were being deceived, where we needed external validation, external healing, external everything. Everything was outside of us. And so Chiron gently and lovingly the last 8 years said, okay, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to just kind of shake loose your life a little bit here. I'm going to change your career. I'm going to change your relationships. I'm going to change your health. I'm going to change the way that you, the individual, reacts and responds to all of life in every area of your life. You're
I'm
not
just
going to be.
laughing really hard because it does not feel like the last 8 years were gentle at all. Probably everybody really agrees with that. But like it, but it also happened in the gentlest way. If we had to metabolize all that in 1 year, imagine like we would have totally fallen apart. So, that actually, even though it felt so intense, that was actually the gentlest way to move through it. Thank you.
Exactly. And coupling that with the fact that all of our external generational planets have shifted signs, this is a time where we as a collective are moving and shifting and changing. And it's no longer being done from a place of, okay, I'm going to keep giving my power away to other people. I'm going to keep living for the other. I'm going to keep sacrificing myself to make you happy. There's a sense of, no, it's about me, Aries. It's about what I need to feel full. It's about what I need to be happy. And from that place, I can love you, I can give to you, I can support you. But there's a sense of empowerment. And I think people have started realizing what it means to be in their own individual power.
Now, if people are still kind of like wrapping up that old lesson of codependency and operating relationships through our old wounds, and they don't feel like they're totally there, established their own identity in it yet, is this transition now going to help us embody that a
Yeah,
little bit more? So
absolutely.
if we're not totally there, if you don't feel like you've totally arrived, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the things that I will also say is that, we all handle our experiences differently, right? We all have different levels of initiation. Some people move through it quickly, and some people move through it a little bit slower. There needs to be more time for them to come into themselves. And by the time that Chiron is fully in Taurus, people are going to start to realize more and more and more and more and more that, okay, my worth, my values, who I am, what I love, it's not a material possession. It's not something that someone can own. I don't need to be codependent. I don't need to be dependent upon the other. I can be me, they can be them, and we can coexist. It's not a enmeshment anymore. We are two unique, sovereign individual beings that are in relation versus being dependent upon each other and then being enmeshed and living and continuing to live from a place of disempowerment.
Mm. Yeah,
So,
I'm just connecting with the confusion that that codependency and that enmeshment creates, and like how much more clarity we can have now as Aries helped us to define our identity within it, or Chiron in Aries helped us to define our identity within it and focus on our own particular wound instead of projecting it onto others.
exactly, 100%. So, one thing that I will say is that, when Aries is in Chiron, it helps us because Aries also represents a new beginning, right? And the sacred principle from Aries, Chiron and Aries, is life emerging from chaos. And that is exactly what has been happening and what is continuing to happen. There has to be a sense, there had to be some kind of collapse, some kind of chaos, some kind of tower moment for you to be able to see the lies and the illusions and the stories and the ideologies and the beliefs that you built your life upon that weren't stable, that weren't consistent, that weren't true, that weren't you. And so it is through the dismantling of all of this that you, the individual, started to embody your courage, your power, your strength, your conviction. You want to move forward. You want to change. You want to take action. There's a desire for things to be different. We're tired of living the old stories. We're tired of living those same relationship wounds again and again and again and again, like the onion, right? Like they call it the onion, but it's like, no, enough of the onion. We're tired. We're done. We're done with that. We're done listening to other people tell us who we are. We're done playing in toxic relationship systems. We're done keeping quiet just to keep the peace. We're done following other people thinking that they are going to be better leaders than we are. And so this narrative has started to kind of shift and turn, and we've started to become more embodied and activated in our desire to lead ourselves, our lives. We want to start to heal our sense of giving away that which was never ours to give away, and that ultimately is our truth, our power, our self-respect, our desire. But we had to go through everything in order for us to experience the coming home to self, right? Because remember, the wisdom, again, in Chiron is learning through experience. So I really want people to kind of notice where and what has shifted for them in the last 8 years within themselves. So, Kalina, would you be so kind as to just share with me what you think is something that has shifted fundamentally in you over this transit that you can honestly say, wow, I used to be like this, and this is what I'm like now. And it's because I was able to move through the wound, because the wound, the experience, becomes the wisdom and the medicine. And finally, I was able to say, okay, I gained my wisdom through the chaos, through the hardship, through the lived experience.
Yeah, the medicine of the wound, absolutely. Relational shadows from childhood where I was kind of seeking to change the behavior of abusers to be able to be received. So like the last 8 years really brought me through the experience and reconnected me to the childhood wound so that I could confront what I was orchestrating in my life, and come back into my own grounding and stop both chasing or projecting the wounds externally and sit with it. Um, then, there's the huge discomfort of realizing that this is my wound that I'm perpetuating. And this person's just playing a role with that. Yeah. So it feels like recently it's gotten more grounded, but there's still another piece of I feel solid and embodied and still and grounded with this.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's exactly it. For me, remember that Chiron also from an esoteric perspective is a soul wound that we've come into this lifetime to heal. And
So
so,
the childhood wound, quote unquote, is linking us to past lives, like the perpetual wound that we are have chosen to come in and address in this lifetime.
exactly.
Um, and by address, I kind of mean metabolize. When we can metabolize our own wounds, then they become the medicine, and that's the Chiron. That's the
Yeah,
Chiron experience and the with the medicine.
yeah,
And when
exactly.
we are unable to metabolize our own wounds, then we're not able to receive that medicine and that healing that we can then share with other people. But when we stop and metabolize it, then we can share it. But it's
That's
in the, and I think Taurus will help us with that too, because Aries is always going, going, going. So the stop and metabolize is really powerful, but uncomfortable. So we kind of need a little bit of community also. This is super uncomfortable, but I'm not going to launch into the old story and reactivate the old story kind of space.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And that's the thing, and if you really want to know the kind of like the core wound of you, where your major core wound sits, you can look in your birth chart and you can see where Chiron is and in what constellation, what house, right? And something that I've noticed that's been coming up for me over the last 8 years, where I've had to learn my experience with Chiron moving through Aries, was that because I have a lot of Libra in my chart, and by nature, I'm very empathic and kind of sensitive, I didn't realize how much of other people's energy and stories and beliefs and things I was processing on their behalf.
Mm.
I didn't realize how open my field was and how easy it was for me to become sort of unconsciously invested in fixing their pain and their wounds. And I understand that, from my childhood, right? It comes through as I needed to be the peacekeeper in the family. I was the one within my home that I was the tennis ball between, my father and my stepmother and my mother. And so there was this triangulation that was constantly going on, and I was always in the middle, and I was sort of just, fawning and just loving all the problems and just feeling responsible to fix everyone and save everyone and heal everyone and keep the peace and make everyone else feel safe and comfortable. And I realized that over the last 8 years, that was a painful experience and lesson for me to go through, because I really had to learn how to stand on my own 2 feet and not give myself away, not give my power
Mm.
away, and come back to myself, come back to my truth and live for me for once.
I feel like what you're coming to, and I feel like so many people are feeling this as well. This Aries medicine was, um, sorry, I just had it. Um, Separating our own self from everything else that we took on, what's actually mine and what's actually me, instead of feeling responsible for all the world's problems, and anything that anybody should come in and have trouble with. What's really me? And can I stay grounded in that simplicity? Um,
Exactly.
and in that way, also be more present when other people have problems. Rather, when I take it on, I feel so overwhelmed when somebody has a problem. But when I can stay in my own energy and support them without like jumping in the mud,
Hmm.
um, then
Yeah.
it's more beneficial for everybody, obviously. So, so it's creating more clarity.
Yeah, exactly. And that was part of it, right? And so that was a big initiation for me, and there was a lot of pain in there because I had to learn through the experience, right? I had to feel what it feels like to be taken for granted, and to made fun of, and to like not be respected, and to just kind of be trampled on, as you say. And I had to learn to say, how much longer am I going to take that? How much longer
Right.
am I going to be in that?
Yeah. What I meant to say is like we originally learned to put safety outside of us. When everybody else is regulated, that feels safe. And as a kid, of course, that's all
Yeah,
we've got.
exactly.
But Chiron and Aries put safety back as an inside job, not
Correct.
everybody else's job, but an inside job only, really.
100%. That is exactly it. And so it was through that experience, that again, I was able to say, okay, actually, no, I'm going to take my power back. I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm going to stop fawning as a nervous system response, and I'm going to reparent myself, and I'm going to reprogram my nervous system so that I don't fawn and drop into fixing
Mm.
everything and everyone, but instead I can still help and support, but not lose myself in the process. And in fact, by doing that, and by respecting myself and you, I'm actually giving you your power back,
Yeah.
because then I'm not the one fixing you, but you're in fact taking ownership of yourself. And that is another thing that Chiron and Aries really brought together for all of us.
Mm.
So
Yeah. I think we can actually just pause for a moment and maybe take a deep breath in and just kind of take a moment to let that medicine of wisdom of Chiron and Aries that we've just moved through, all the discomfort we just metabolized in the last 8 years, and just honor that for a moment. Because we wouldn't be here now feeling more sovereign and authentic and rooted in who we are if we hadn't gone through all that. We'd still be spinning those same little big stories and tactics.
yeah, so a moment of gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is the thing, it feels uncomfortable. It feels, when you're in it, you're so close to it, you can't see that it's actually helping you,
Right. Because it
right?
feels like death sometimes.
Exactly.
But we made
Yeah,
it. We're still here. We didn't die.
we made it. We made it. So let's transition now from Chiron and Aries into Chiron and Taurus. So Taurus is ruled by Venus, right? It is a fixed modality and it is an earth element. So Venus is an interesting planet considering that she rules both Taurus and Libra, right? And so it's both earth and air. So it's the body and the mind. It is what is fair and just and right and equal. That's why Venus is connected to the Justice card. It's, like the scales, but also the sword. And Taurus is more about the earth and about, the body and sensuality and material possessions and living through our senses, our taste and our touch and our smell and our sights and all of these different things. But Taurus, remember that Chiron has now moved out of fire, right? And now it's moving into earth, which is fixed earth. So this is a very different energy, very, very, very different energy. Remember that a fixed and earth sign, so these two qualities together create a very kind of distinctive nature or composition. Earth is tangible, it is form, it is matter, it is nature, it is stability, it is practicality, it is structure. Earth is something that you can touch. It's real, it's useful, it's dependable, it's enduring. Earth is to build and to preserve and to create security and stability in the physical material world. Earth energy, so this would be Taurus or Virgo or Capricorn, they value patience and consistency and routine and structure and common sense. They like the ability to transform ideas into something that is concrete and lasting. They like to move slow. They are not good with change. Because they want something to stay. They want to make the impermeable like there as a consistent thing, like a landmark. It has to be there. So fixed energy, again, is continuity and reliability and endurance and a sense of permanence. It's patient and it is consistently moving forward. It's not afraid of hard work. You can think of Taurus as like, that farmer tending the fertile soil and the oxen and the plow, right? Like it's moving forward slowly, day in, day out, plowing and plowing and plowing, because they understand that hard work or labor or toil is necessary for something to grow. And there's a sense of patience with that comes through. So one thing is that, Taurus is known to be fixed, and fixed, again, it's unwavering, it's unmoving. So now we've just come out of fire and it's passionate and it's, kind of transformative and it's rapid and very, can be destructive, but at the same time, it's very, quick, it's rapid, like think of a match. It strikes and then it burns and then it kind of dissipates after a while, right? Whereas earth, it's slow and it's stubborn and it's resistant to change and it can be stuck in attachment and materialism and it can be possessive, but it can also be persistent and reliable and practical and patient, right? So when Chiron moves into a fixed earth sign, that energy slows down. Chiron in Aries was a fast initiation. Even though it took 8 years, it was still a very fast initiation. Now, with Chiron in Taurus, it's a much slower process where we actually become more, if we are unconscious, we become more, if we can, the wounding of Chiron and Taurus at its lowest expression is being afraid of change and being afraid to move forward wanting to remain in a comfort zone, wanting to stay in a situation that feels known, rather the devil you know than the devil you don't. But if people understand how to work with this energy, you can move forward and transmute and learn and grow your worth, your value by persistently taking steps forward, by creating security and safety and patience and grounding within yourself. So this is going to be a really big transition because, again, Taurus is the body, right? It is connected to our body, our sensuality. I don't know if anybody here is a big astrology person or how much you guys know about astrology, but anybody that knows a Taurus, you would know that Taurian people, whether this is a sun or a rising, they tend to lean into the sensuality. They tend to teach Tantra or practice sensual practices. They love being in their bodies. They love food and sex and touch and soma. So when that wound opens up, these are the wounds within us that might come up to be seen, that might come up to be healed, that might come up to be integrated. Wounds around our sexuality, our sensuality, our body, our connection to the earth, our connection to our senses, our connection to our material world. And I'm not saying that, we're going to be perpetually wounded for the rest of our lives, but we have to understand that we grow through experience. Any and every single seed that is planted gets planted in the dark, in the soil. It is through that discomfort that it grows up and into the light, where it gains its wisdom and it flourishes. But it has to go through the shadow first. It has to go through the wound first. It has to go through the unconscious, subconscious behaviors and patterns and seeing beneath the surface what is there, so that it can be transmuted and grown and healed and integrated to become whole and flourish and grow and become more expanded and wise and gain the wisdom and the medicine from that experience, right? So wounds around the body, sexuality, as well as our fear of safety. This is going to be a really big one for a lot of people, especially people that already have strong earth in their natal charts. Again, people with earth, they don't do well with change. They're not good with fast-paced living. They like things to be consistent and slow and steady. They like things to be just routine, day in, day out. My husband is a Capricorn, and bless that man if he doesn't have a routine. Holy moly, that man has a routine. Y'all, to try and get this man to break routine is like, it's almost impossible to get him to break routine. But that's how he operates. That's how he moves. That's how he, that is his archetype, his embodied expression. Mine is air. So I don't mind shifting and changing and moving. For me, the lesson with Chiron and Taurus is to be patient enough to slow down. For him, it's going to be learning to not get stuck, but be willing to move with the rest of the planets and the archetypal expressions, which is pushing us into fire and air. And so this is going to be a really, really, really interesting 8 years. So the big thing that I would also speak about is self-worth, right? Because Venus rules the second house, and traditionally that would be Taurus. And that house and that aspect is connected to our sense of self-worth. So when Chiron moves into Taurus, it's about what the soul, we, us, the individual, we're learning and we are uncovering and discovering through experience what truly has value for us? How do we embody and cultivate and create inner, internal safety and security, even if it looks like the outside world is falling apart? What does it mean to have healthy self-esteem? And so the big thing is that through Aries, we were being given a position to come home to ourselves as an individual person, to be the individual. And now we're being given an opportunity to really hone in and embody and see our sense of self-worth. So karmic themes, right? Scarcity consciousness, fear of loss, fear of attachment, dependency on external validation, putting our self-worth outside of ourselves. I'm only worthy if I get money. I'm only worthy if my partner loves me. I'm only worthy if my children come and visit me every weekend. I'm only worthy of love if I do this. It's a lot of I'm only worthy if something else, if someone outside of me, if something there and that and the other. I'm worthy of success if I work hard. I'm worthy of love if I sacrifice. I'm worthy of acceptance if I people please. Like whatever the story is there in your personal life, in your situation, within your area, your home, whatever area this might be activating for you specifically within your own self, and within your birth chart, for example, it's going to be looking at the areas within yourself where you fear, where you are overly dependent on your material possessions. Because again, Taurus rules our material possessions. This is our home, our car, our current way of life. What we know, our comforts, our bed and our four walls and our air conditioner and our electricity and water and food. And we've grown accustomed to the life that we've been living, right? Now, what happens if that changes? What happens if that shifts? Are we able to detach? Are we able to become grounded and present and not fixed? Are we able to move forward regardless of what we have become accustomed to? And this is the challenge. This is the thing that Chiron is going to push us through, is can you become detached? Can you learn to live differently? Can you let go of the idea and the things that you've grown comfortable with? In my case, it would be my home. I love my house. I love my house. And it would suck for me to have to give up my house. But I've come to a realization that if I need to move or relocate or shift or change, then I can let that go. I don't need to hold onto it. But I've noticed that with Earth, fixed Earth, whether it's Taurus or Capricorn or Virgo, they struggle to let go. It's a real and genuine struggle. It's very difficult for them. So the lesson is really learning to release and to detach and to let go and to understand that this is part of our collective and individual growth, is that safety is something that is cultivated within. The material world will always shift and change and adapt and be different. We cannot be afraid of change. We have to embrace it, right? They say that change is the only thing that is ultimately consistent. And once we become comfortable in the uncomfortable, we can actually be resourced enough to move forward with inner strength, inner resolve, inner security, inner safety. We can bring that into the body. We can regulate our nervous systems. We can do the somatic work. We can build and create a new relationship with our bodies, understanding that our bodies are its own entire sentient consciousness. we can learn to develop a new relationship with our body. And it is through Chiron, through the wound, through the challenge, through the pain, through the discomfort, that sometimes we've got to learn the hard lessons, right? So when Chiron moves through Taurus, it's also about understanding that my value, my worth is not something that is found outside of me or in my material world. It is something that I embody. What matters to me in my existing material world, whether it's money or my house or all of the materialistic possessions, can I learn to become comfortable with the idea that that might not be there tomorrow? And what would happen? What would that mean to me if that happens? Can I move forward? Can I go with the flow? Can I create a life where I'm not attached, where I'm not disassociating, but I'm also not so attached that I'm afraid to move forward, that I'm afraid to take a risk, that I'm afraid to do something different for myself, to choose differently, to express differently, to feel differently, to show up differently.
To even approach life completely differently.
Exactly. And this is the thing, Chiron and Taurus is really going to show all of us where we have internal, unconscious, hidden, subconscious wounds, beliefs, stories, and narratives that we have either carried into this life or inherited from family or childhood wounds or society. And it's going to show us exactly where we still have these wounds around worth, security, abundance, and our body.
And I think the medicine to work with all of that is, especially moving into Taurus, is the body. Moving
Yeah, exactly.
away from Aries, maybe a little less fire and electricity feeling in the body. Maybe we'll feel a little bit more grounded, but it's going to be like the breath. How do your toes feel in your socks on the floor? Just like coming viscerally back in. The medicine's not going to be going up, up, up in meditation. Not that we don't want to meditate, but we've got to bring everything back down and ground it into our cellular existence here, into are reestablishing those really nurturing routines. And when things feel really sticky, the body and the senses are going to be the most accessible way out of the stickiness back into some sort of feeling of embodied presence.
Exactly. You see, and the thing is, the wisdom that I believe we're going to both individually and collectively really sort of see and feel is that, and this is going to be a big lesson for all of us because our nervous system has been trained to respond and react based on everything and anything. So it's unlearning old habits and response systems and basically learning a new, more grounded, more present way to stretch that nervous system so that it can hold and sustain peace and rest and digest for far longer than what we are currently accustomed to. So
I'm
the
just receiving
focus.
this. Sorry, go ahead. I'm
Mm,
receiving this thing that recently we've just been downloading is like the ability to receive the message and the wisdom even when it's not communicated in a way you desire.
yeah, exactly.
The Aries reactivity would have us pushing that away because it was, conflicted with how we want to receive things. However, the value of receiving that wisdom, even if it wasn't communicated, you can, talk about the communication issue separately, but still receiving the message.
Yeah, 100%. That's amazing. Yeah. So one thing that I also just kind of want to briefly bring up is that I think that it's really important for people to be aware of this, right? So that you can just have that loosely in the back of your head because Chiron and Taurus, again, is going to activate your fear of abandonment. your fear of poverty, your fear of rejection, your fear of not being enough, your fear of not being good enough, your fear of having, that which is consistent and stable in your life perhaps be shaken loose. There is a energy of it's going to be, you know, it's going to come up. And I'm not saying this because I want to scare people or because, I'm trying to be negative, but I want people to be aware so that when they feel inside of their system that fear of abandonment, they feel lonely, they feel abandoned, they feel lost, they feel rejected, they feel like, they're never good enough. Like I'm gonna just get personal for a moment. Like my partner has Chiron and Taurus. And lately, he's been sort of repeating this sentence in his birth chart, by the way. He's been repeating this sentence of like, oh yeah, I'm always failing. Like, I'm not doing anything right, or like there's a sense of like I'm not good enough, and I have to prove myself, right? Or like my family don't think that I'm good enough, or and there's this wound with not being able to effectively manage finances or create long-term safety, because it's almost like there's a sense of that I'm just going to drop into the wound because I haven't learned the lesson yet. So I want people to be aware of this. So this is where healing is needed, and it's not to punish. And I want to make sure that people understand that over attachment to money and possessions and relationship and comfort zone and status, safety, these are things that are, it's ultimately, and I hate to say this, but it's ultimately an illusion. It's Maya, because none of this is actually real, right? So it's valuing yourself enough. It's intrinsic value, it's intrinsic self-worth. It's understanding that my experience, my feeling abandonment and loss and, rejection and afraid of losing my money, afraid of losing my home, afraid of losing this, afraid of losing that, whatever that may be for any one of us, right? It's understanding that it's actually through this experience that we come on the other side and we realize that we're still safe. We're
It's
still
the
okay.
re-evaluation of your actual worth from everything you assigned it to externally to,
Exactly.
the real reality of that you were born with.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
I'm really grateful that we experienced Chiron in Aries to give us this individuation process so we can more clearly understand what's ours, what's other people's. And we're kind of, Aries helped set us up to come into this space where we can take on this next level of healing with Taurus.
exactly.
And also, every time, I'm just going to call us back to that. Every time we feel stuck, body, how do your fingers feel? Your breath and body, get some water. Those things are really, and it being a fire year, the fire is already really present. Chiron moving from Aries into Taurus helps diminish a little bit of that fire, but we still have so much fire. It's probably not the best time to call on extra fire, and
Yeah.
except in very specific instances, right? Be very clear on
Yeah.
when you call out the fire, because the fire depletes the water, and we need to nourish ourselves in this too.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about balance, right? And this is the thing. And I'm just going to say this lastly. Um, so Chiron and Aries kind of taught us, where do we still doubt ourselves, right? It's like it's asking us that question of like, where do I still doubt myself? Trusting myself, leading myself, guiding myself, right? It's that, where do I still put something outside of myself? And then Taurus is going to come back home after a while and say, well, I'm valuable and I matter and I'm worthy. And I don't have to be afraid, and I don't have to live in scarcity consciousness, and I don't have to get stuck. to the
Mm,
material world, because it's okay for things to look different and feel different. It's okay for me to grow and change, and for my values to change, and for my worth to change, and for my environment to change.
mm,
And another thing that we know for a fact is going to happen is that, the earth herself is changing. Our relationship with our food, Taurus rules food, the relationship that we have with our food is changing. The relationship that we have with the earth, with our bodies, with our value, with our worth, with our sense of self, with our pleasure. All of this is changing, and it's to become empowered in these areas. It's to move outside of the conditioning and the wound and the pain and the stuckness and the rigidity, and to say, I can flow with this.
and
I
in order
can,
to get there, anything that's living within us that's not that yet is going to come up and be noticed over these next 8 years.
exactly. And it has to be cleared, it has to be integrated, and it has to be something that we do, because again, the universe is not punishing us. It's giving us opportunities to grow and expand and heal and become more and more and more of what we can be, what we can become if we surrender. Taurus is also the natural sort of earth. It's the natural like
Mm.
nature within itself, right? So when you find yourself doubting your worth and you feel afraid of the changes that are happening in the external world and all of these different things that are happening, I'm not going to get into the whole thing of like doomsday prophecies and all that shit, like that's not this space, but what I just kind of want to make people aware of is the more conscious you walk into this, the easier it will be for all of you, for all of us, right?
Absolutely.
And the more we can start to, from this moment forward, really learn and remember our worth is intrinsic. The more you can believe that, feel that, taste that, sense that,
And
the
refuse
easier.
to earn it or prove it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And when it's intrinsic, when it's there for you because you know this, it's your truth. It radiates through you, then this Chiron in Taurus situation will help you to become even stronger in your conviction to know that you're worthy. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of success. You're worthy of, living a beautiful life. You're worthy. And it's okay to move. It's okay to shift. It's okay for things that once felt comfortable to fall apart so that something else can be built, so that something else can, be put in its place, so that there's new soil, new plants, new ideas, new concepts, new ideologies, new beliefs, new life can be planted and grown and harvested and reaped and lived.
Mm.
Um, and I think that that's just such a really beautiful message. And one thing also is that really give yourself permission to become accustomed and connected to the wisdom of your body.
Mm.
Your
Yeah.
body is what is always reading the room and the environment. I actually was in a call the other day, and one of my mentors, she mentioned something and I found it fascinating. She said, your intuition is literally just your body reading the environment. And I was like, holy shit, that is so true, because your body reads and says, something's not quite right here. It sends a signal to your brain. Your brain then goes, oh, what's this? And then the brain tries to override the body.
Right. We
And
think
how
it's
many
brain
times
to
do we
body,
do
but
that?
it's body to brain and then brain back to body. Yeah. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Hmm.
So it's just amazing. So working with our body as its own intelligent consciousness, giving ourselves permission to move and be patient and to learn to regulate our nervous system and be present in our bodies at this time is going to be really good and very beneficial and very helpful for all of
Yeah,
us.
that's the way we can keep calling on the gifts of Taurus because it's going to be in the slowing down and the feeling more embodied and feeling more connected with your body and discerning the wisdom of your body instead of trying to shut it up all the time. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, and being grounded, being connected with the earth. Those are gifts that we get to keep calling on each time the things come in and we notice, or the nervous system, come back to those things over and over and over again. Those will be the medicine in this time.
Exactly. And remember that everything in life is cyclical. There are different cycles, right? This is the whole purpose of this group, of this conversation, is it's everything is cyclical. It's like a massive spiral, right? Like we just go through this spiral and everything is just in the spiral, and everything in nature is cyclical. The sun rises and it sets, right? We have summer and winter and autumn and spring. We have a seed that grows and dies. We have a seed that's planted and then it grows and then it creates wheat, and then you have to sheath that and then you can transform it into something else, which is flour or bread or whatever that is. But ultimately, there
We're
is
always in the process of transformation. Sorry, go ahead.
exactly, and there's always wisdom to be received and to be there's something to be, there's a gnosis, there's a like a embodied gnosis, embodied wisdom, to be like the body holds gnosis and wisdom, and we can always tap back in to our wisdom, to our body, to be able to understand and create safety within.
Mm,
Understand our worth and our value is intrinsic. To know that, yes, we are in fact incredible manifestors and we get to create amazing realities for ourselves. But at the same time, we have to first see the wound that is subconsciously, unconsciously, blindly moving through us. And until we don't see that, fix that, integrate that, and then move from a more empowered place, the subconscious mind is what is ultimately creating our lived reality. And, with this, just to kind of bring that full circle, it is our thoughts create our reality. And so if you're afraid of being in your body, if you're afraid that the material world is collapsing, if you're stuck in routine, if you're unwavering, unmoving, unwilling to move forward, unwilling to flow, unwilling to go with the cycles and understand the natural evolution of life, this is going to be a very uncomfortable period for you. So allow yourself to be in the cycle, allow yourself to see the wounds, call Chiron in and say, show me where I don't value myself, so that you can see it, heal it, integrate it, and then move forward from that place, empowered in your strength, in your sovereignty, so that you can build in this life and make it fruitful, abundant. So
mm.
yeah, that's
And
it.
Taurus reminds us we can do it slowly. We can breathe as we go. There's no more rush to do this. It's just like more embodied,
Yeah,
more here, more present, less
exactly.
flighty, ADHD everywhere. Just little
Yeah,
by little, more here. Thank you so
exactly.
much, Eleni. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Thank you for such a beautiful conversation. Thank you for opening up this next 8 years for us so we can really feel personally what it means to us, and
Mhm.
understand clearly like how to be with it and how to make the most
Yeah,
of it, what
yeah,
we've
yeah, yeah.
just metabolized over the last 8 years, and what this next, the challenges and the gifts of the next one to
Exactly.
come.
And
So,
so I really invite everybody also to just look in their birth chart to kind of see the area. If you want to go deeper and you really want to kind of see what area of life this would be targeting or activating for you. So look at your birth chart, look at the house that this particular Chiron Taurus initiation is going to kind of work through, because then you will know the area of focus for you, and then you know how to consciously work with it rather than just being blindsided by it.
and if you should need any further clarity, please reach out to Eleni. She will be happy to help you. Thank you all
You're
for being
welcome to
here.
book
We
free.
will see you soon. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.